Federal Express used to have a great commercial when it absolutely positively needs to be there by 10:30 a.m. And today's video is a derivation of that. When you absolutely positively need to retire by 65. And why do I say that? Why do I constantly remind people to be thoughtful and deliberate about when they choose to retire? You know, the reason is because if you're 60 years old, you likely have less than 1,000 weeks of healthy, active time in front of you. The average person at 65 years old, depending on the mortality tables that you look at, has 12 to 15 years of life in front of them, on average. Hopefully, most of my viewers, most of us will get more, but that's what the averages are. And as I look at that, that's not a lot of time. And when we get to that point, I want you to look back and say, I spent my mid-50s, my 60s wisely. And for some of us, that's going to mean we retired early. And for others, it's going to mean they kept working. There is no right or wrong answer. But let me make the case for 5 reasons you should think about retiring as soon as you can. And the first one is just, we all have 3 limited resources. We've got time, we've got our health, and we've got money. And you know what? Of the 3 of those, there's only one that you can make more of. And that's your money. But yet many of us, the default, particularly in the United States, is to optimize on the money side of things. The reality is, if you want to maximize how much money you have in the bank, if you work right up until the day you die, that's how you do that. But I don't think we want to do that, right? And for many other people, the reason they don't retire sooner is just the transition can feel a little scary. We know after 20, 30, 40 years of working, we know what this life is like. And if you've been in the same industry for a long time, for many of us, we enjoy what we do. We're good at it, and frankly, after 20, 30, 40 years of it, it's easy for us to do. So it's a very comfortable place. But I can tell you, having been a fee-only financial advisor for over 20 years, 9 out of 10 people, once they retire, once they go through that transition, say, you know what, Azul, I wish I had retired sooner. And I don't want you to be in that situation. I want you to be in the situation where you look back and you say, I'm really happy with the decision that I made, whatever that decision is. So again, number 1 is, our most precious limited resource is time. I think, certainly in my case, I feel that pressure to make the most of every year the older that I get, and I think a lot of you feel that way as well. So that's the first one. The second one is on that list too, right? Our limited resources, time, health, and money. The second one is health. And the reality is, after doing what we've been doing and working as long as we have a lot of weight on our shoulders. There's a lot of pressure on our shoulders. And it may not even feel that way. It's very common that I hear, I don't have a lot of pressure on my shoulders. I like the people that I work with, and I work on projects that I enjoy, and that's great. That's as it should be. But I can tell you again, after people retire, many times they say, I didn't realize how much pressure I was under. And that pressure impacts our health, both directly and indirectly, right? Pressure's not good for anybody, we know that. But it also gives us limited amount of time to take care of ourselves, to go to the gym, to shop, to grocery shop for healthy food, to prepare healthy foods, to spend time just playing and doing things that we enjoy doing. Obviously, look where I'm fortunate enough to live. There's all kinds of fun playing to be had back here, and I get my fair share of that time. But could I use more play time? Probably. All right, let's keep moving on. The next one is on the money side, right? I mentioned the time, health, and money. On the money side, one of the goals, one of the kind of gold standards in my industry is something called the 4% rule. And you don't want to use a rule of thumb. to make a decision to retire, but at least directionally, you know, looking at what your savings are, and can you withdraw 4% a year from a portfolio that's maybe 60% stocks, 40% bonds, and have a very high likelihood of never running out of money over a 30-year period. It's called the 4% rule. The answer to that is Bill Bengen did that research for us. And the reality is, yes, we have a very high likelihood of that working for us. Well, you know what? As I record this, the 10-year Treasury bond, debt that's issued by the U.S. government, is paying over 4%. It's never been easier in the last 15 or 20 years to get a 4% return. So, you know, just because Bengen did this study looking at historical data doesn't mean it's going to work out in the future. But, you know, for the last 10 years, it's been really hard to get a 4% return in a 60-40 bond portfolio, frankly, because the bonds, the fixed income, really wasn't delivering much return at all. And now that's not the case. So that's another thing. It's in my professional life, it's never been easier to get that 4%. You've never been able to do it with taking as little risk as you can take right now. So that's another thing to think about. Okay, another one is, you know, if you've got $750,000 or more, it's highly likely, I shouldn't say it's highly likely, but there's a decent chance you're going to pass away with millions of dollars left unspent, right? When financial advisors do a Monte Carlo simulation and look at what the likelihood of our clients never running out of money, we'll come up with a probability of success. And as a financial advisor, you know, I want my clients to have a 97, a 98% likelihood of success. You'll never get to 100% because none of us know what the future holds. And this is not financial advice for you because I don't know your specific situation. But what I can tell you is when you do that, you know, we'll say, okay, you have a 97, 95% likelihood of never running out of money, but the way the Monte Carlo works is we're running simulations almost like 1,000 different lives. And by definition, half of those lives, half of those simulations do much better than the median and half do worse. And in the cases where you do better than the median, you know, if you're starting with $750,000 or more, there's a decent likelihood that, you know, at 90 years old, you're going to still have over $1 million. And I think if you find yourself in that situation and you kept working one more year because you weren't sure that you had enough money, that you'll look back and say, I should have retired sooner when I had my health, when I could do things that were active. So those are the main reasons. And I also think you'll find this video up here super informative that talks about the average income that retirees have at 65 in America. Average income for retirees. I'll see you in there. Bye-bye.